Well, howdy there, Pipe Pals. How's it going? You know who this is? The one and only Wood Smoking Pipe Padre. And I'm coming, actually this evening, with a... get this going a little bit here. This is a Dunhill Zodiac. Let's see if I can... guess the camera's right over here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. Oh, she's a good girl. Look at that. Oh my goodness, look how beautiful. Even though she needs a little bit of polish, she's still a good girl. Yeah. Okay, so, and today, or tonight, I should say, a beautiful spring evening, I am smoking some warped tobacco, because that's kind of the way my day has been, warped. This has been one of those days where Murphy has been in control. Mr. Murphy has been in the house, you betcha. And over here I got some coffee. Just some good old raspberry chocolate coffee. And so I know I had an earlier video up here. And today is, I think, the 8th, I believe. And so the reason why, I guess I'm very restless. I'm going to be honest, I've been a bit irritable. A bit. That's an understatement. Every little thing today has just been one source of irritation. And I'm supposed to be on vacation. Irritation on the vacation. Oh. And I was talking with a friend last night, and we were both kind of just talking about our past and different chapters of our life. And I can't remember feeling this irritated in years. I mean, I've certainly had, well, yeah, probably years. I think that's fair to say. Maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I feeling very, very frustrated about just, life in general. I think COVID, I know when COVID was getting ramped up and just, all the things that went along with that. And so anyway, I remember there was a couple of times where I really just got just irritated. And I don't like giving into that irritation, but it would be like if you're trying to walk down the stairs you're just trying to walk from point A to point B, and you stand up and your knee goes out. Okay. Then you finally click that back into place, and you take a step forward and your shoelace breaks. And then you bend down to fix that, and then you come back up, and maybe your back goes out, and that's a very real possibility in this life. And then then you sit there and you go, I got to go get some Advil or something to take the pain away, or whatever. And then you find out there's no more Advil in the medicine cabinet. Then you decide you want to go out and try to get some Advil, and then you find out there's a flat tire on your car. And then you find out that the spare also, oh, by the way, is flat. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, one irritation literally after another. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. It's probably like 30 or 40 little irritations where I would just be just absolutely, it was like overwhelming. It's like the death of 1,000 razor cuts. It's like, wow, what is going on here? It's like all the little gremlins just decided that they were going to pick on me today. I know that sounds awfully paranoid, but again, that was the experience of today, because I thought, well, okay, I'll finish my homily video. And I was kind of feeling a little, I wouldn't say proud, but I was feeling confident in the new iPad Pro. Excuse me. On the iPad, that I kind of was feeling like, I kind of, not only am I figuring it all out, I'm actually kind of liking it. Here I can sit on my recliner, my nice, beautiful new recliner, and I can, maybe play another tech video behind me as I'm listening, and maybe, kind of, how it is. I remember when I was a little kid, and that's an interesting thought. I haven't thought about that. As a little kid, young kid, teenage, middle school kind of kid, and I've shared this before, I used to love to build model airplanes and cars and tanks. I was mostly into military models. Whether it was battleships or, like I said, tanks, or, any kind of interesting, military vehicle. Although there was one, I don't know what this rocket was, but it was I think it was a fantasy rocket, but it was very intricate. I don't know, I forgot the name of it, whatever. I don't even know what the TV show was, if there was a TV show or a movie. But it was one of the most fascinating models I think I ever built. And I was just really intrigued by that one model. I mean, I've always loved building models. But anyway, so as I was building models, I'd listen to TV in the background, or my mom play the radio, or maybe even just listen to my mom talk on the phone with my aunt. Just that kind of background stuff that you're taking in passively, but your mind's really focused on this, putting this thing together. And so I guess in many ways, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's like, reliving kind of some of my childhood experiences, and somehow I kind of, I don't know, maybe I just kind of got lost or something. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the VR, the new Apple Vision Pro. I kept calling it Vision 1 or Reality 1. I mean, Ultra Pro Max Vision 1. I was making a lot of fun of it because of Apple's name branding of their products. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But certainly, and I know some people probably could care less about, not only, Vision 1 or Vision Pro. There we go again, Vision 1. I keep calling it Vision 1. I think I'm confusing it with Ready Player One. I think that's what and I haven't seen that movie, but I was kind of tempted to see it tonight. But right now, I'm right in the middle of this, this old prospector guy. Just came out, I guess, this year. It's a movie from Finland, but it's in English. And it's about this old Finnish prospector. Kind of reminds me of somebody that I know. And he finds a vein of gold, and he is like, he's speechless, literally. He doesn't say anything for the first 20 minutes of the movie. In fact, I don't even think he's even said a single word since the movie started. And that was like 50 minutes ago. So anyway, but this old guy, he basically is apparently he's some Finnish legend, and the Germans basically have messed with the wrong guy. So it's getting to that climax where it looks like the Germans are going to, kill him. And I said, okay. First of all, the movie's pretty intense. And I said, well, I really need to get this video done tonight. I really want to do that. And then I just thought, well, I better try to get this done. And today has been one. The reason why I think this is today has been a really challenging tech day for me. Normally, most of the tech stuff, I just do it. It's not a big deal. It's part of my work. It's part of the things that I do on a daily basis. And most of the time, I'd say 80% of the time, everything works pretty good, But today, I couldn't figure out how to do scrolling text. I did it a couple weeks ago. I said, yeah, I think I got this down. This is great. And today, for some reason, I couldn't get it to work. I checked out a couple other videos thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? Most frustrating thing in the world. I had to do a workaround, which you can always do workarounds, but when you're trying to learn something specific and say, I think I've got this down now, and then you go back to it and you find out, no, it's not working. Anyway. Spent about 2 hours trying to figure this out, and I think that set me off in a bad mood. So, and the rest of the day it kind of just went progressively downhill. Had some thunderstorms though today, which I love. Thunderstorms, beautiful thunderstorms. Here in the Northwest, love it. But anyway, so I wanted to get on here and I want to talk about some things. Now, I got a little message, and I'm going to try and say your name, and I hope it's okay. What's your channel name? I hope it's okay. It should be Max925. Is that right? And basically, Max9 made some nice comments on one of my videos, but one of the comments he said was, people have no respect for others or themselves, and especially God. I have heard that over the national that the national population are losing interest in the Christian community and moral values, and from God's teachings, mostly young people, as the report mentions. So, he's saying, I sure hope that is not a trend that's going to be going forward. But I was watching a parody of something. And that's the other thing, real quick. Sometimes YouTube just is really frustrating. Yeah. And I know you can probably pay a subscription, and it's quite steep, to basically block all the ads so you just get content. And boy, I tell you what, when I'm trying to find if I'm trying to get information, I'm trying to get some piece of information that it's going to help me create something or fix something or learn something or, figure something out. And I find the video that I go, okay, I think it was this guy or this gal who said, this is how you do this one workaround, or this one, how do you do this, procedure. And you sit there and you're kind of really focused, and all of a sudden a commercial comes up. And then another commercial comes up, and it's like, it was right when they were saying, and now all you need to do is, hey, have you tried new, whatever it is, washing machine powder, whatever. Just really frustrating. So, I think a lot of people, I was going to say that it's kind of funny because, the cultures go through certain phases, I guess. And I was thinking about it. I thought, well, basically, when it comes to conservatives and Christianity, there was a time when that was predominant. And I think there's still certainly a lot of people that are people of faith, and they believe, and and they struggle with their day-to-day lives, just like I was doing today. But unfortunately, society has kind of, it's like there was a time when people were really looking to organize religion, and Christianity in particular, for answers. And some people found them, but unfortunately other people didn't find them. And then there was probably the mushy middle that just said, oh, I don't want anything to do with it, and I believe they're all hypocrites. And then when the scandals, whether it was the evangelical scandals came out or the Catholic priest scandals came out, it was sort of like, okay, now we've debunked this, we can move on. We've disproved conservatives and Christianity, so we can move on now. We can put our faith into something else. And what people, especially I think even young people, are putting their faith in, well, even then, there's a little bit of a caveat there too. They're not exactly, some of them, and maybe a good portion of them are putting their faith or their trust or their hope or their future into, the technology scene, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment with the Vision Pro, the Apple new VR AR headset. And the reason why, there's still a lot of young people are kind of, gravitating towards that is because, they kind of think, well, my online life, my avatar life, my my internet life or persona, maybe I have a pretty crappy life. I live in a crappy apartment, I have a crappy relationship, or I don't have any crappy relationships, or whatever it is. Forgive me, I know I shouldn't say crappy, but that's just kind of the way a lot of people feel. And so they have now been kind of deceived into thinking, well, hey, why don't you have a virtual reality, and you can pretend. This is where we're at right now. We have this whole thing. It's kind of been built upon a very false premise is, well, you can have your truth and I can have my truth. And my truth is just as valid as your truth. But there really is a hierarchy of truth or a hierarchy of reality. And unfortunately, a lot of people now have kind of been, well, do I want to say brainwashed? Well, they certainly have been influenced by the media and popular films and literature and sci-fi stuff that who's to say what's real, right? Who's to say what's real? And so that's where a lot of people, I think, a lot of young people have gravitated to because they feel like, well, without actually finding out for themselves about religious faith, they just have a it's just given. It's just a given that all religion is fake and phony, and it's all a bunch of hypocrites. Okay, but the thing is that now the people that place their faith or their beliefs or whatever in the new age technology stuff, and it hasn't been debunked yet. It hasn't been shown, to have a feet of clay, or it hasn't been shown the warts and everything because it's still kind of shiny. Maybe they've taken the wrapping off and maybe they've, dropped the phone a little bit and got a couple scratches on it and then go, well, it's still okay. Okay. But I'm finding that a lot of young people and a lot of the tech tubers that I have listened to, and I have to, maybe part of this is just that I'm really, really kind of tired because I've been I really have been really fascinated by this whole advent, this whole announcement by Apple about the Virtual One, our Vision One. There I go again. They have so many different names, Ultra Pro Max, and MacBook Pro and MacBook Air and all this stuff, all these different names that qualify them for some other different thing, Pro this and Max that and Ultra this. And so anyway, so I think a lot of young people, a lot of the young tech tubers, now there's some who are just, watching their reviews of this whole Vision Pro headset and watching the actual Apple keynote or the WWD presentations on Monday. It was quite fascinating, I will say that. But it was interesting because it was like, I think there was one guy, and he was just absolutely over the moon with this thing. He said, man, this thing is like nothing you've ever seen before. And and he was just going on and on and on about it. And he was happy to have had a personal demonstration with the unit, got to wear it, got to experience it. And in some ways, some of the people, as they were talking about their experience with this headset, were kind of trying. They were saying, well, yeah, it's kind of like everything you saw on the video, on the presentation, but it's... And they kept saying, well, yeah, it did this and it did that. And then they just say, you're just going to have to experience for yourself. That was the bottom line. Everyone kind of said, well, I can tell you what I experienced, but you won't be able to really understand it until you experience it for yourself. Okay. Now, taking that back to, say, maybe a faith perspective, I'm kind of wondering if maybe that was maybe the early Christian experience with Jesus. He's risen. He's not 100%. They know that it's him, but their eyesight tells them that, well, this is somebody different, though. I mean, he's similar, but there's something kind of different about him. Well, he's resurrected now. He's cast off, the physical, and he's put on the resurrection, and what an awesome experience that must have been. And so because he only appeared to the disciples and maybe a select few. We don't know who else, but we just know that it wasn't to everybody, like he would in his public earthly ministry. And so a lot of people probably were saying, well, we have experienced him. We've met him. We've seen him. And yet probably a lot of people said, well, where is he? Show me. I too want to kind of have that experience, And a lot of times they probably were just speechless, literally. They didn't have the words because they had to say, well, you just kind of experience them for yourself. And I think that's still true today, believe it or not. That being said, so I wrote down some things about the Vision Pro headset. Let me get a little sip of coffee here. I'm trying something different, yes, different and new. I felt a little bit vindicated, kinda, because of course, I was starting to go down that frustration road again. And I was trying to hook up these SM7B mics. As I said, mics is in plural. That's why I'm hoping I'm getting a little bit of a stereo effect here. Over here is left, or over here is maybe right. I don't know, or vice versa. Vice versa. Anyway, and the new iPads, the iPad M1 and the M2, apparently they now you can add external mics. Now I tried to do that with my wireless mic, and I found out it didn't work. I made a video, and I'm going like, that's right. So I was so frustrated, and I thought, well, maybe I didn't hook it up right, or turns out it just doesn't work. But there are some mics that work and some that don't. And I'm thinking, well, there's no way I'm going to get these XLR SM7Bs to work. And yet, lo and behold, here we are. Okay, so I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, I digress again. I do that a lot. Let me check the time. I'm doing okay. Okay, so now, those of you who follow me know that, yeah, I don't have a problem with basic technology. I'm probably everybody thinks I'm Mr. Techie, and although I sometimes I'm a bonehead when it comes to basic email and things like that. Hold on a minute. Oh, that's good. Okay. But VR, I have to say, I have reservations about it. Now, again, I don't know if what Apple showed on Monday is truly revolutionary or if it's just, again, another novelty like 3D TVs or folding phones. Now, a lot of the people that tried it saying, "Wow, they let me put the headphones on, the headset on, and I got to experience it." We'll talk about that in just a second. But let me tamp this down here. That would help. So is it really going to be revolutionary, or is it going to just be just kind of another novelty that kind of comes and goes? Now, you're talking to an old prospector kind of guy here. And I've seen, vinyl come and go, sad to say. 8-track tape players, see them come and go. Now, yeah, both of these little things, even VHS and Betamax and Laserdisc and all this technology that's come and gone, it has a little bit of a renaissance. I think you can, if you're an audiophile, you can probably find a niche that sells not only vintage records, but even brand new released presses of records of vinyl. So anyway, but for the most part, you see these technology waves come and go. So is that what we're kind of experiencing in all this hoopla? All of this, hype and excitement? Or is it truly something revolutionary? Sort of like akin to, the quote unquote horseless carriage, back at the turn of the 19th century. Is that what we're seeing? Or is it the 20th century? But anyway, so is that what we're seeing? Because the thing that was presented, and this is the key. This is the key. What was presented by Apple was something that was totally revolutionary. Now, I think that a lot of the YouTubers that did talk about this issue, like I said, there were a few that were like really over the moon, and they couldn't wait to get their hands on it, and they were saying all these things that this is going to change the world and blah, 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 blah. And maybe, possibly. But a lot of them, now they didn't say it exactly. This one guy from England, I watch him, his name is Mark Ellis. He's a UK technology guy. And he just simply said, and I think he put his finger on it, and especially because of what I was thinking. Now, he's probably a little bit older than most. He's not as old as I am, but he's certainly not a kid, a spring chicken. He said, I just have an uncomfortable feeling about all of this. And he goes, I just can't put my finger on it, but I just know that there's something, I have an uncomfortable feeling. And, as you watch the presentation that Apple, put up into WWD, I don't know if you call it seminar or conference or whatever. But, you did, at least I did, the thing that made me feel a little bit uneasy and kind of a little bit of a creeped out feeling was that the people that now again, they went the extra mile to try to say, but they're not, insular. They're not siloed. See, but to me, they did look a little siloed. They were just kind of in their own they're in their own little world. And part of that, I think, the reason why I feel uncomfortable about that. Now, we've all experienced, entertainment, some form of entertainment that's kind of escapist. It's kind of like a break from reality, but that's the thing. We know it's a break from reality. But it could be lots of different things that gives you that moment of kind of like, I'm going to take a little bit of a mental, psychological, emotional vacation here. I'm going to, whether you want to call it going to your safe space or, taking a time out or taking a chill pill, whatever you want to call that experience, that's kind of what this VR headset, I think, is trying to sell people. And Now, part of me feels very nervous about that because when we talk about altered states, as a person who's a recovering, John Barleycorn addict, yeah, oh yeah, I know all about altered states. Let me tell you, I lived in them for years. Yeah, I really did. Number of years, and they weren't fun. Pouring yourself a double scotch and a couple of beers and a bottle of wine a night. Oh man, you'd feel pretty good for a few hours, and then the payoff comes. And it was just lucky there. A couple of times there was no reason for me to have woken up the next morning. I should have died of alcohol poisoning about 3 or 4 times at least, no doubt about it. But that was when I was in an altered state. And I don't care if you're using alcohol or drugs or whatever it is that you use to escape, that has a price to it, and it can be very destructive. So again, that uneasy feeling. Again, the lady looked like they mostly showed this young lady, and she's got the headset on, and we'll talk about that too in a minute. But to me, part of that uneasy feeling for me was she really looked kind of isolated and siloed, as the young kids say today. So I think that now Apple did try to go out of their way to say, oh, but no, you're still connected to your world, and people can still interact with you, and you can still interact with them, and they even said that they have this new feature where they have the new goofy, virtual eyes that flash back at somebody so they can see you, and you look like you're actually really looking at them, but you're not. But they flash this virtual set of eyes on the screen so that people can kind of like quote unquote interact with you, and you can interact with them. But people said that made me feel it was kind of creepy valley. Okay. So another thing that these are some of the other concerns that I had. One of them is, what about the long-term effects on your eyes? Now we're talking these little postage stamp screens, literally. They're just micro, millimeters from your eyes. And I know that a lot of people, when they were using the Walkman, I used Walkman headphones for a number of years. Not a lot, but more than I probably should have. And I'm kind of wondering, could that have developed the tendonitis that I now am experiencing? Mildly, I'm happy to say, but I still have a little bit of that going on now. So we don't know the long-range possible problems with this type of technology on the human eye. We don't know that. Kind of like some other things we've experienced in the last couple of years. I won't mention it because I'll get a strike and I'll get taken off here because I might say something that's going to offend somebody. But you can probably put 2 and 2 together. But the thing is that we honestly don't know. I mean, now this is supposed to be released the beginning of next year. Now, if there are possible negative side effects, hopefully they will discover those in time before you send out millions of these units and find out 6 months or a year down the road, or maybe 6 years down the road, that people have now permanent eye damage. I was going to say real quick that, we all have had some form of escapism, and most of it's natural and healthy. I remember listening to a buddy of mine in college days, and this is back when really good stereos were awesome. And so we were into classical music. We were friends, colleagues in good sitting, we used to say, and music, a lot of music courses we took. And so he said, "Oh, are you interested in stereos?" I said, "Oh yeah, big time." And he goes, "Oh, come on over. I got a couple records you might be interested in listening to." And sure enough, there was this beautiful. I like classical music. I still, even though I'm playing some jazz in the background, that's the radio station mostly. But he played a Shostakovich second piano concerto with this beautiful woman called Christina Ortiz. Anyway, so I remember sitting in that living room, and it just transported me. I mean, I was transfixed. I was, talk about escape. I was somewhere else. It sounded just like I was in a concert hall. It sounded like she was actually there in the living room playing a grand piano. I just was so immersed in that and so captivated. It was a magical experience. But you can experience that with reading a good book. People who love to read, that's escapism. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it's a form of escapism. It's for the most part probably very healthy escapism. So we've all probably experienced what the headset they're trying to sell us now. It's like you can have these kinds of experiences more often, and even to a greater dopamine experience. So the other thing is, they promise these great kind of escapist kind of experiences, and they even kind of say, and you can even use this for work. So instead of using this little screen that I'm using here, I could project this whole thing and fill up the whole room with this virtual screen, and I'd be maybe 100 feet high, and I'd, okay, well, I guess. I mean, sure, the first few times you do it, you're going to be going, wow, look at that. But it's kind of like Disneyland. When I was growing up, every kid on the block wanted to go to Disneyland. Now, if I ask any kids now, they'll say, no thanks, not really. No, I've already been there. It's like the novelty wears off. It's true, and for everything. Now, the other thing, too, is, now again, the Apple presentation that I thought was a little bit heavy-handed was, they were trying to not just show you this, wow you with this technology, but what I thought was really, and I think this is true, they were trying to superimpose, they're not just superimpose a VR, AR experience, but they were trying to use that VR and AR to dominate actual reality. And this is where we got a problem right now. I mean, seriously, we have a real problem with people and reality. Let's just be honest. It's manifested in this huge trans thing. I mean, for a guy to actually believe that he can be a biological woman is an absurdity. Plain and simple. You're never going to be a woman. You're not a woman. Or vice versa. Sorry. I don't care how many surgeries you have. I don't care how much the hormones, cross-sex hormones they pump you with. You're never going to be that. Never. Because why? Reality. It's quite a concept. Okay, another thing that I think is something that they're kind of missing. Now, again, I know some of you are saying, what a hypocrite you are. You love Apple products. You just can't wait to buy the newest Apple products, and now you're crapping on VR. No, I'm not doing that. I'm trying to tell you that I'm not alone. There are other people that are feeling this, but they're having a hard time articulating what it is that they're uncomfortable about. And one of the things that I think is interesting is this. Sorry about that. Now I got these sensitive mics and you can hear me rustling the papers. Is that as human beings, we are, by our very nature, tactile people. We have to interact with our reality. It's not just enough to see something. And again, people are going to say, well, how can you be so, hostile? I'm not being hostile, but how can you be so critical of VR? You haven't experienced it yet. And look at you. You got Apple phones and iPads and computers. But here's the thing. I touch these things. And like I was trying to tell somebody once before, at first I thought I didn't need the iPad until I picked it up and started touching it. My mistake. Because you're interacting with this, you're touching this thing that creates and consumes information literally at your fingertips. Now, I know that the new VR, you use your fingers to manipulate, and your eyes and your fingers, but you're not touching the things. You're not interacting with reality. Virtual reality. you're manipulating, you can control it. But again, I think human beings for some fundamental thing is we have to touch what we're kind of looking at, whether you're putting your hand on your buddy's back or you're picking up a new pipe and going, man, that's awesome. Look at that bowl. Look at that sandblast. Look at that beautiful silver. I need to clean that though. We like to touch things. And I think that you obviously you can't touch what's virtual, and sorry about that, but you're not going to truly interact with it. So I think you can look, but you can't touch. And I think that's going to be a frustration, and it's going to leave people feeling kind of unsatisfied, I think. Now, the other thing, the mind-blowing experience. This is what a lot of these YouTuber people were saying. It was a mind-blowing experience. And that leads me to another thing, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, is that, a mind-altering experience. And, we know that the cigarette companies, the fast food companies, probably even the computer software companies, they put chemicals or they program things in certain ways that you get a certain dopamine experience and you're coming back for more, right? And they know they got you hooked, okay? So it's a mind-blowing experience. And again, we don't know. We really don't know, again, not just the damage on the eyes, but could even actually be the mind itself. The mind itself could be being altered as people engage with this alternate virtual reality. So I was, I've been thinking about, well, is it truly revolutionary or is it just innovation? Time will tell. Now, it was interesting tonight, this afternoon, I should say, I saw a guy who, now, again, everybody's got a dog in this fight, I think, especially if you are a VR person, you've been into it. Now, VR goes back about 8 or 9 years now, I've been told, the Oculus and the Meta stuff and all these other headsets. There's several of them out there you can buy right now. And one guy was kind of a little bit jaded, and he was saying, oh, wow, Apple's going to now produce a VR headset. Wow. And he was just like saying, look, guys, this is already on the streets. If you want to go experience it for yourself now, go for it. It's already here. Apple didn't invent it. So, yeah, I was thinking, well, okay. But is it potentially revolutionary? Yeah, it could be. It could be. Like I said, it could be, we might be at a threshold where we're kind of like, the people that were, still in the horse and buggy days, seeing the first advent of the horseless carriages, as we used to call them when I was growing up. And then certainly the automobile takes over and, the buggy and the horse kind of fade off into the dustbin of history. Yeah. So the other thing, and I think I'll close with this, I think we'll be good here, is that, again, I want to focus on this for the last part because I think it's mostly, it's the most important. Well, yeah, is it the most important? Well, I think it's something that we all need to think about. But first, ladies and gentlemen, let me just fire up my briar one last time here. Good old Warped. I think this was a little gift from last year, actually. Saint Espressa Warped. Yeah, I think this was a little anniversary gift I got last year. So, had my anniversary the other day, so kind of an appropriate little thing to be sharing in again. Okay, so the last thing, and I think it ties a lot of this together, is that good old Apple, good old Tim Apple, good morning! They produced this whole demonstration. And whether it was just the keynote and the information that they were sharing in the WWD video, Again, it was all produced in-house. Now, in the old days, a person said, well, in the old days, Steve Jobs would get up there and actually do live demonstrations of these products. And to be honest, there were a couple of times where it didn't work too well. And I'm sure that was a very unnerving experience for the guy who was responsible for that part of the program when it didn't work. He's going to be looking probably for a new job after that presentation that basically flopped live on TV. You probably know that Steve Jobs probably went behind that curtain and tore that guy a new one and fired him probably right there on the spot all at once. I mean, it was not probably a good day for that poor person, and I feel sorry for him. But so we don't know until these VR headsets actually make their way out into the wild, into the real world, do I dare say? And we just won't know because, again, Apple they manufactured a feeling. A lot of people are talking about these emotional feelings. Some of them said, man, I was really feeling like overwhelmed by emotion. I don't know why. But it was all designed. Again, they weren't just saying, oh, here, try this out. See what you think. No. They led you down the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. That's what they did. And literally, they were completely in control of that yellow brick road. And the things that you saw and felt, it was all manufactured. It was all intentional. Now, again, I'm not saying there's anything sinister or bad about that. I mean, that's what a good salesman does. They're going to sell you this product, and they're not going to tell you, well, the battery only lasts really about 45 minutes. They're saying, well, it lasts about 2 hours. I love that, about. It may only go to like 45 minutes in the wild. When it gets out there to real people, they're going to, hey, this battery pack only lasts about an hour. Barely that. If you're just using it to look at email, I guess you can do that. Maybe it'll last 2 hours, no problem. But if you're trying to play a video game, if you're trying to do some, work, and you're trying to, maybe create a video, or you're trying to do some audio stuff, might only get 45 minutes an hour. Who knows? We don't know yet. Again, they showed you all these incredible things, dinosaurs and butterflies and, all these, wonderful environments, Okay, yeah. But here's the thing. In many ways, it's kind of like a magic act. And a lot of the YouTubers said, oh man, it's so magical. And I love that word because if you really follow that to its little conclusion or its origin or whatever, you find out that magic is all based on what? Illusion. It's an illusion. It looks real, and they lead you to believe something that may not be, okay? And I just think that this is really intriguing to me. It's really interesting. It's really telling. Yeah, it is magical. And magic is not real. Again, you go and you see a good entertainer. A lot of times, maybe if you go to a really nice restaurant, they'll have the magician guy or gal that go around the tables and, they entertain people, in these higher end restaurants. And it's kind of fun, and they may do some card tricks, or they do the disappear trick, or whatever they do, and it's an illusion. You swear that they did this magic act, and I think that's exactly what Apple did on Monday morning. They presented this wonderful illusion, great magic act, and a lot of people are going to buy these things. Now, again, a lot of people have also been a little bit critical. Well, how can I afford $3,500? Well, I don't know. Don't know how you're going to do that. Do you need to do that? I just think, and again, I'm not 100% sure what's really going on with all this, because you would think if they really wanted people to catch on to this quote unquote revolution, they would have made them they would have knocked off at least $1,000, brought that price down to where they know more people would be wanting to buy that. So I don't know where this is all going to go, where it's all going to end up. So, I guess the thing is that VR has been here for already 10 years, maybe longer. And it's been out in the wild with some of these other manufacturers of other headsets. So they've used, they've put their wares out there and people have tried them. And, a lot of people, it's a novelty. That's the thing about a novelty as opposed to revolution. If the automobile had not caught on and people started using them and depending upon them, they probably would have just been a novelty. But, again, the other thing too is that there were a lot of early adapters of the horseless carriage, but it did catch on. And, again, I'm not opposed, like I said, I'm not opposed to technology, but I am kind of concerned that people are being, and they're doing it to themselves. They're deceiving themselves by telling themselves that, and this is one of the videos I saw today, and this guy was more of a philosopher, and I've heard people say this, but I feel bad about this because we all have. I've lived in some real, when if I say dumps, that's not too far from reality. Okay, I came from the poor side of the tracks. Okay, when I was growing up. And I've lived in some pretty desperate situations and circumstances. And yet I never kind of felt like, my existence is so bad that I've got to, I take that back. Maybe, again, the things that we do sometimes we don't really know why we do what we do. A lot of it is our family influence, our genetics, experiences we've had, other people, maybe other people, I wouldn't say manipulate us, but they maybe set up a bad example and we kind of follow their bad example, going with the herd, going with the crowd. A lot of people do that. But then they break away and they find themselves, and they make the best of their life, where regardless of where they live. Now, people that I think give in to despair, that's a sad thing. That's one of the things that I think, we try to face and help people with is coping with despair. And because if you allow that to cripple you, the outlook on your life could be pretty grim. But I know a lot of people who, they don't broadcast it. They don't go around calling attention to their sufferings, but they suffer quietly. And yet they're examples of people that are they're people of faith, a lot of them, but they're people who I think are they're an example to people to show you that you're more than the sum of your troubles or your problems, and you don't have to let your problems and your troubles and your surroundings define who you are. You can live a full life regardless of some of the things that you might think are your holding you back, or look where I live. One of the things that I think about some of these YouTubers, some of them, they live probably a little, I wouldn't say they live in squalor, far from it, but they don't live high on the hog. What they do is they find how they can transform their environment. They, in other words, okay, I don't have to live in squalor. Maybe I'm poor, but I don't have to live like a poor person. I can clean my dishes, and I can wash my linen, and I can make my bed every day, and I can, I don't have to, be a victim of my surroundings and my environment. I can rise above all that. I'm greater than that in many ways. And so a lot of these people, now I know some people, they talk about some of these YouTubers do make, now some of them do make a lot of money, and God bless them. A lot of them put in a lot of work. And, again, I have no problem with people that are going to do hard work and they get the reward of their labors. I have no problem with that. But I think that a lot of the run of the mill, younger people and even older people, they just get a camera and they do some creative lighting and they get, whatever, and they put out their content and they try to do the best they can, and they do good work. But they may not, if you turned on the lights and you said, oh, this is kind of a small little apartment, where's your bed? Well, I don't have a bedroom. I have a fold down bed in the living room. That's what I got. Okay, fine. You're living in New York or living maybe in LA or something like that. But you're making it work. You're not, and again, maybe they'll work their way to a better home or apartment. Maybe they'll work their way into a good relationship and they'll be having a family someday, But they don't let their surroundings, dictate who they are. And again, I just think that when kids, I had one young person, he was sitting right over here, in fact, and he's a great young man. I have nothing against him whatsoever, but he was saying that, and it's sad because you could sense a little bit of discouragement and despair. Now, he's a hardworking young man, and I think, I've been told that he's actually trying to make some good investments with the money that he makes and saves. That's great. But he did say about a year ago that, well, my real world is kind of depressing. Where I live, I don't live in a nice place, don't have a lot of friends. But my online experience, I can, through the Meta thing, I can, live in any, have any kind of office I want or work environment I want. I can look however I want. I can put out this avatar, this metaverse kind of, virtual reality, and that's more pleasing to me. It gives me hope, or it gives me an alternate way of living. And I'm like going, well, I'm wondering how you really will square that with reality someday. I mean, when you're young, I'm going a little bit too long here, but I'm going to try and finish with this. When you're young, you dream. A lot of us do. I think most of us do. And we think about going off and doing great things, and maybe we don't end up doing some of the great things that we had dreamed about. But, as long as we're striving and we're growing and we're taking responsibility for ourselves, I'm not saying the world's your oyster, but, you can create a real life, a real reality for yourself, and you don't have to depend upon something that is quote unquote virtual or augmented. And because the moment you take the headset off, guess where you're at? That's right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the old Padre yet again. Thanks for, I'd like to know what you think about VR headsets and technology and everything. So until next time, the Holy Smoking Pipe Padre saying, light up your world and light up your life, and have a great weekend, okay? Or a great week ahead, whatever, okay? Okay, we'll see you next time. Take care.